I'm sorry, I've got to make our confession. I'm excited, I'm sorry. Let's hold our Bibles, make our confession. I want to say it like you mean it, like you said. This is the Word of God.
This is the Word of God.
And I have what it says I have.
And I have what it says I have.
And I can be what it says I can be.
And I can be what it says I can be.
And I can do what it says I can do.
And I can do what it says I can do.
My mind is alert.
My mind is alert.
My heart is receptive.
My heart is receptive.
I'm a winner.
I'm a winner.
Not a whiner.
Not a whiner.
I'm a doer.
I'm a doer.
Not just a hearer.
Not just a hearer.
So I'm a doer.
I'm a doer.
Not just a hearer.
Not just a hearer.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
The Bible says we're all part of the body of Christ. In terms of 20 behind you next to you say, thank God you brought the rest of my life. Now tell somebody God loves you and so do I.
God loves you, brother, so do I. God loves you, Pastor Robert, so do we.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Amen.
All right, now you turn over to Joshua 2. Joshua 2. As you turn to the Bible, said Mary Mark goes good like this. I got you some medicine this morning. Remember, these are just your stories, so please don't be offended. A child asked his father, how were people born? So his father said, Adam and Eve made babies, and their babies became adults and made babies, and so on. The child went to his mother and asked her the same question. She told him, we were monkeys, then we evolved to become like we are now. The child ran back to his father and said, you lied to me. His father replied, no, your mom was talking about her side of the family. A woman gets on a bus with her baby. The bus driver says, that's the ugliest baby I've ever seen. The woman goes to the rear of the bus and sits down. She's fuming. She says to a man next to her, the driver has just insulted me. The man says, you go right up there and tell him off. Go ahead, I'll hold your monkey for you. Although this married couple enjoyed their new fishing boat together, the husband who was behind the wheel operating the boat, still he was concerned about what might happen in an emergency. So one day out on the lake, he said to his wife, honey, take the wheel, pretend that I'm having a heart attack. You must get the boat safely to shore and dock it. So she drove the boat to shore and safely docked it. Later that evening, the wife walked into the living room where her husband was reading a novel. She sat down next to him, switched the TV channel on, and said to him, honey, go into the kitchen, pretend I'm having a heart attack, set the table, cook dinner, and wash the dishes. Last one. An elderly couple are in church. The wife leans over and whispers to her husband, I just let out a long, silent fart. What should I do? The husband replies, first off, replace the batteries in your hearing aids.
No.
All right. Praise the Lord. See, y'all need that medicine. I can't believe you can tell jokes like that. You know what? God's got a sense of humor. Sometimes we just get too religious.
Yes,
All right, Joshua 2. I'm going to read this to you from the Living Translation. We're getting verse 1. Then Joshua sent 2 spies from the Israeli camp at Achaia to cross the river and check out the situation on the other side, especially Jericho. They arrived at an inn operated by a woman named Rahab, who was a prostitute. They were planning to spend the night there, but someone informed the king at Jericho that the 2 Israelis who were suspected of being spies had arrived in the city that evening. He dispatched a police squadron to Rahab's home, demanding that she surrender them. They were spies, he explained. They had been sent by the Israeli leaders to discover the best way to attack us. But she had hid them, so she told the officer in charge, the men were here earlier, but I didn't know they were spies. They left the city at dusk as the city gates were about to close, and I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them. But actually, she had taken them up on the roof and hid them beneath piles of flax that were drying there. So the constable and his men went all the way to the Jordan River looking for them. Meanwhile, the city gates were kept shut up. Rahab went up to talk to the men before they retired for the night. I know perfectly well that your God is going to give my country to you, she told them. We are all afraid of you. Everyone is terrified if the word Israel is even mentioned. For we have heard how the Lord made a path through the Red Sea for you when you left Egypt. And we know what you did to Sihon and Og, the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan, and how you ruined their land and completely destroyed their people. No wonder we are afraid of you. No one has any fight left in them after hearing things like that. For your God is the supreme God of heaven, not just an ordinary God. Now I beg you for this one thing. Swear to me by the sacred name of your God, when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live, along with my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all their families. This is only fair after the way I helped you. The men agreed. If you won't betray us, we'll see to it that you and your family aren't harmed. They promised, we'll defend you with our lives. And since our house was on the top of the city wall, she let them down by a rope through from a window. Escape your left, she told them, hide there for 3 days until the men who are searching for you have returned, then go your way. But before they left, the men had said to her, we cannot be responsible for what happens to you unless this rope is hanging from this window, and unless all your relatives, your father, your mother, your brothers, anyone else, are here inside the house. If they go out into the street, we assume no responsibility whatsoever. But we swear that no one inside this house will be killed or injured. However, if you betray us, then this oath will no longer bind us in any way. Tell somebody, stay in the house.
Stay in the house.
Verse 21, I accept your terms, she replied, as she left the scarlet rope hanging from the window. The spies went up to the mountain and stayed there 3 days until the men who were chasing them returned to the city after searching everywhere along the road without success. Then the two spies came down from the mountain and crossed the river and reported to Joshua all that had happened to them. The Lord will certainly give us this entire land, they said, for all the people over there are scared to death of us. Is the devil scared of you?
Yes.
Yes.
That didn't sound very convincing. I don't think that even convinced the devil. Is the devil scared of you?
Yes.
Why? Because of your God. Amen?
Yes.
All right.
Amen.
Church, Elmer Towns tells about a member of a motorcycle gang who was converted to Jesus Christ dramatically. And the first Sunday he did, the only thing he knew he should do, so he went to church. And nobody in the church knew him. And he walked down to the second aisle and sat in the seat. And the people stared because he looked the part. Big, burly, bearded, long hair, black jacket, tattoos. It came announcement time, and the minister got up and made an appeal for nursery workers. He said, we need someone to work in the nursery, but nobody would volunteer. He asked a second time, we really need someone to be with our kids, but nobody would volunteer. And the cyclist prayed, Lord, I want to do what you want me to do. If you want me to go work in the nursery, just have that preacher ask a third time. And a third time, the preacher said, please, we need someone to work in the nursery. And the cyclist raised his hand, nodded his head, and started toward the nursery. And immediately, 50 mothers volunteered to work in the nursery. Church, what I want to talk to you about this morning, God can use anybody.
Yes. Amen.
Okay? And I don't know how many times the devil tell you, oh, he can't use you, you know what a big mess you are. I'm here to tell you this morning, God can use anybody. Amen? Now, have you ever thought about the kinds of people God uses? What kind of person comes to mind when you think of a person God uses? Does a biker covered with tattoos come to mind when you think of people God uses? Probably not, huh? Or is it the preacher on public access in a white suit? I'm going to tell you who God uses. God uses anybody He chooses to. God chooses to use people we wouldn't necessarily choose. God is inclined to use the most unusual people, people that we would most likely reject. Aren't you glad God does not judge us by the outward appearance like man judges you? The Bible says God judges your heart. So many times we're so quick to pass judgments on someone or to criticize someone, we can't see beyond their flesh. We don't know what's going on inside their heart. You don't know what they've gone through in life, what they've gone through at that moment in their life. And sometimes we're so quick to judge. We'll take people like Saul of Tarsus. Saul of Tarsus was an enemy of the first church. He was the equivalent of Osama bin Laden in the first century. He terrorized and he killed Christians. David Stone says Saul was not the dude you invited to your baptism. But one day in his way to Damascus, Jesus Christ appeared to Saul and said, Saul, I have chosen you to preach to the Gentiles. God chose his arch enemy, Saul of Tarsus, to spread this message. Saul was being trained under the most elite teachers of that time, Jewish teachers, to be trained to be the first in place Pharisee, okay? Super religious person. He went around attacking all the Christians and all those that were in the way, putting them in prison, stood there and watched Stephen get stoned. He was doing all these things, but yet God called him out. He had a Damascus experience. Church, I believe more of us need a Damascus experience. I really do. And you say, what is a Damascus? Well, God knocked him off his high horse first of all. Then he blinded him and he got his attention. Sometimes God has to allow things to happen to us, church, to get our attention. Amen? Like I say, sometimes I think we need a Damascus experience.
Yes.
But God used him mightily, changed him totally, completely. And he wrote the majority of the New Testament. This shows you the kind of person, and Paul even said the same thing about himself. He said, I'm the chiefest of sinners. You said, well, oh man, I'm the chiefest of sinners. God can never use me. That's the person God's looking for. Amen. Amen? I'll tell you another person God used that you and I would adore. A woman named Rahab. Rahab was a prostitute who lived in the city of Jericho. God used her, a prostitute, as part of his providential plan. In fact, the book of Hebrews, the New Testament, lists Rahab as a hero of the faith. It says, by faith, prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed, but those who were disobedient. Hebrews 11:31. It used a prostitute. And in the book of Hebrews, in chapter 11, it shows all the great faith heroes. And there she is, right there in the midst of it. Amen? Amen. In verse 1, it says, but Joshua the son of Nun secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go look over the land, and he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab. Joshua only sent 2 spies in land this time. Because I think he remembered when Moses sent 12 spies what happened. Amen? He also just used 2 spies so they could remain discreet and unnoticed. He sent them to Jericho because Jericho was a heavily fortified city and it would take a quality battle plan to capture this city. I told you before, Jericho was so fortified that you could take 2 chariots of horses and you could ride them around on the top of the wall. That's how fortified it was. Amen? And so he needs someone to go in and search out the place and look over and get some information about the city for the upcoming battle, just in case he had to fight through a conventional means. And you know the rest of the story. Thank God he didn't have to. So the spies entered the city of Jericho and stayed at the house of the prostitute Rahab. The life application points out that the spies chose to stay at Rahab's home because as a prostitute, she lived on the edge of society. One short stop of rejection. Her house, built right into the city wall, provided both lodging and sexual favors to travelers. The spies also hid at Rahab's house because thinking they may be mistaken as some of her customers. A house of prostitution made a perfect place for the spies to check out the land. I know that blows some of your mind. How could God do that? Despite their attempts to remain hidden, it came to the attention of the king of Jericho that Israelite spies were in his midst. So the king of Jericho said, look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent a message to Rahab. Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house because they've come to spy out the whole land. But the woman who had taken the 2 men and hid them, she said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they could come from. So at dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, the men left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly and you may catch up with them. Rahab is committed in the Bible as a hero, basically, listen to it, basically because she lied to protect the spies.
Yeah.
More than once in the Old Testament, those who lied to protect the lives of innocent people were not held accountable for their lives. In Exodus 1, we read that the Hebrew midwives had hid the babies from Pharaoh who wanted to kill them. When Pharaoh asked them why so many Hebrew babies had not been killed, the midwives lied to him, saying that the women are giving birth before we can get there. And the Bible says God blessed these midwives because of their action. Rahab lied so she'd protect the lives of spies. And the soldiers from Jericho believed her. And they hurried off on a wild goose chase looking for the spies. And when all was clear, Rahab said to her given you this land to you, and that a great fear is fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting with fear because of you. Church, that's the God we serve. Sometimes that's the God we forget about, we take for granted. This is the God that can do the supernatural, can do the miraculous, can do the impossible. You know, if we understood the God we serve, our enemies would be scared to death of us. She said, we heard how the Lord dropped the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites, whom you completely destroyed. And when we heard it, our hearts melted, everyone's courage fell because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. Amen. I want you to listen to this. Rahab was a prostitute, but she knew something about God. Amen. She had heard about the miracles of God. Yes. Does that surprise you that a prostitute knew about God? No. She had never met an Israelite, but her heart was being melted by God. It's said that she was the very first Gentile convert. Think about that. And we always think, well, you know, Jesus would go to the tabernacle, he'd go to the church, he'd go to the religious people. Church, if we see in this story, we're going to find out Jesus goes where he's needed most. Amen. Thank you, Lord. But one day someone told Mark about Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Many times, church, we think that God only reveals himself to those inside the church. We think that the only way that people can learn of God and receive salvation is through some kind of Christian church or event. So it's apparent that God reveals himself not only in the church, but in the whorehouse, in the bar, in the nightclub, at the track, even in a restaurant. Amen. Amen. How arrogant it is a Christian to assume that God only works through Christian people, Christian programs. You know, one of the greatest witnesses you have is what God's done in your life. Amen. Your own testimony. You know, sometimes people go, I don't know the Bible real good. You don't have to know the Bible real good to share your testimony with somebody. You know, you might be able to quote the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and it won't help a person at all. They won't understand. But you begin to tell them the mess that you were and what God did in your life. That will get their attention. Mark Miller is a member of the church, God's church now. And he received a revelation from God while rehabbing from alcohol. No Christian ever spoke to him. But he believes God touched him in an isolation room in rehab. From that point on, he changed his life around, came to church, was baptized, and now is a ministry leader in church. And he's won over 10 people to the Lord. God can show himself to the most unusual people in the most unusual places. God can reveal himself to anyone he wants to. A drunk or even a prostitute. Amen. Rahab, this prostitute, was beginning a journey with God. And so she said to the spies, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family because I've shown kindness to you. Give me a sign that you will spare the lives of my family and that you will save us from death. And verse 15 says, so she let them down by a scarlet rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. Church, that scarlet rope, that scarlet thread, represents the blood of Christ. And it said when the Israelis came into Jericho, they spared her and her family. Because why? Of that scarlet thread. That scarlet thread was like when the Israelites came out of Egypt and they applied the blood to their doorpost. And all those are inside that home. When judgment passed over, the death angel passed over, they were all spared. And if they didn't have the blood applied, then they were judged and destroyed. And the key thing to this thing, they tell her, but all of them have to be in the house. She said, we can't be responsible for those on the outside. We can only be responsible for those that are covered under the blood. You hear what I'm saying this morning? In church, there's two lessons we can learn from Rahab's experience. The first is that God can use anyone. Rahab teaches that God can use anyone, even a prostitute, to accomplish His will. And that should teach us that we should never rule out anyone and say, oh, God's not working in that person's life because look at what they do or who they are. I want y'all to hear that. So many times I say, God can't use that person. How can God use that person? Look at the disciples He chose. They were a mess. Amen? And sometimes we write people off. Oh, they're not qualified. They're not educated enough. Some of the most spiritual people I know never graduated to 6th grade. And some of the people that got PhDs behind their name don't even know God. They can quote you the Bible and give you a relationship. Amen? So don't write people off. The ones that you think not, that's the very one God wants to use. You know, it's just arrogance for us to assume that we non-sinners have the market on God, and that God only works in certain ways in certain places that we deem acceptable. Some people believe God can only work in the church house. God does some of His best work outside the church house. Amen? Apparently God had found His way into a whorehouse on the outskirts of Jericho. In Isaiah 55:8, God says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my way, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your way. So many times we're trying to tell God what He should do and how He should do it and who He should use to do it with. And God's got a whole different plan, and it has nothing to do with the way you think He should do it. Amen? And we just learn to leave it alone and leave it in God's hands, you'd be amazed what God can do with your life. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle back together, healing the brokenness, the hurts. Amen? Well, Lord, I think you need to use Sister Janelle. Well, I think you need to use Sister Margaret. God may use sometimes He may even use an enemy of yours. Sometimes we're rough on the edges, and God sends people in our lives kind of like sandpaper to smooth us out. Amen. Mark Patel was a heroin addict who learned to play blues guitar in the French Quarter of New Orleans. An orphan who spent the days on the streets and nights in the bars and learned to play for audiences. He also learned how to drink and swear and act real tough. Mark covered himself with tattoos pretty much from head to toe. His most distinguishable tattoo is a curse word on his bald head. But one day someone told Mark about Jesus and he was freed from heroin. When he moved to Cincinnati, he heard a church over the Rhine, and he entered a church and they stared him down. You ever gone into a church full of religious people?
Yes.
And you walk in and automatically they're looking at your appearance and then judging you?
Yes.
One of the best servants of God that I know is an ex-biker. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
And he's covered with tattoos. But that man loves God with all his heart. Anyway, they stared him down, so he stayed and offered to use his musical gift to glorify God. But the church ignored his offer, mainly because of his looks. Mark finally came to another church at the invitation of a friend, and he was astounded that the music minister asked him to play guitar. And when Mark is in town, he's vital to the ministry in our church, and several people have been won to the Lord. Because as they said, if God can use that guy, He can certainly use me. Now Mark has his flaws. He still struggles with a lot of stuff. But God clearly uses him, church. Never write anybody off. A year ago, Mark flew to India where he felt God was calling him. And during this time, he received a call from a girl in New York named Carrie. Carrie was a crack addict who found Jesus and was now off of crack. You know why? Because Mark Patel witnessed to her when he was in New York City a few years ago. And Carrie says, next to Jesus, I owe Mark to tell my life.
Praise God.
Did you ever, or do you ever think that God can use a heroin addict for His purpose?
Yes.
If you don't think so, remember Rahab, okay?
Amen.
Don't limit who God can use. Oh, you've got to go to seminary, you've got to have a title, you've got to be a doctorate, you can do all. You know, I don't think Joel Osteen went to seminary. I don't think Joyce Meyer went to seminary.
No.
But look what God's done within church.
Amen.
God can use anybody. The person who walks in a church that looks down and out, or who has a seedy reputation, could just very well be the next Rahab. Perhaps that person has been called out of a wicked place, and God is working in their lives. So don't judge them. You know, it blows my mind as Christians so many times, we'll work ourselves and do all we can to go outside and get people into the church and love. Oh, come on to church. And we love them just like they are. If they're drunk or if they're an addict, if they're down and out, we love them just that. But when they come to church house, all of a sudden, we want them to clean up and change their whole life and look just like us. Church, everybody comes, God, and they have a different walk. Some people have gone through some real hell in their lives. And it takes God a little longer to get their lives back in order than it needs to be. And so many times, because people don't change overnight like we want them to, people don't look like we think they should look, then we just do a push them aside and say, oh, God can't use them. Yes, He can. And they may be down and out. They may still be in their, hung up in their addiction. They still may be drinking, and they may be doing whatever they're doing. But God is working on them. And I say, don't ever take my word for it. Go check it out for yourself. Read your Bible, know what God's saying to you. But I believe in my heart, as long as you're striving, as long as you're trying, God is right there with you. He's not going to cast you aside. He's going to be there to pick you up. He's going to be there to lift you up, to encourage you, to strengthen you. Amen? And the second lesson we can learn from Rahab is that God can use you. If God can use Rahab, that means He can use you. You might, right now, you may think, I'm too far away from God. I've done too many sinful things that God could never use a person like me. You think that God only uses saints like Mother Teresa and Billy Graham. But the truth is, God wants to use Rahab's as much as He wants to use Billy Graham. He wants to use you to accomplish His purpose in this world, no matter what you've done. God is in the business of taking people like you and like me and transforming them into people that He can use to accomplish His purpose in this world. So there's no excuse, church, that you can come up with as to why God will not choose to use you. Jesus said, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. You know how I know God can use you? Because He uses me. Amen. If you only knew who I really was on the inside, if you knew the struggles that I have, I was once a wasted person filled with doubts. And there was a time that I hardly even believed in God. And if you really knew me for who I was, you would realize if God can use Roger Petty, He can use you. Amen. Don't let the devil lie to you and tell you you're no good and that God cannot work in your life. You know, one of the neatest things about God is He's no respecter of persons. He loves the ministry, He loves the prophet, He loves all His kids, church. He loves us all equally. He loves us unconditionally. You know, a lot of people get this mindset, well, when I get my life straightened out, I'll come to church. You'll never get your life straightened out. It's not possible. If it's possible, we wouldn't have Jesus come to die for us, church. You come as you are. And some people get really hung up on that. I tell people, come as you are. God will clean up what needs to be cleaned up. The Holy Spirit will deal with you. He said, He will make us fishers of men. Don't ever let the devil tell you that you're beyond the will of God. Because the truth is, God specializes in taking the worst of you and using it, not only for your benefit, but for His.
Yes.
You know, before I got saved, somebody tried to talk to me about Jesus. I had to be able to relate to them. I mean, quote me a bunch of scripture that wasn't going to save my life or change my life. But I need to see something in them that I did not have. Amen? Anyway. He takes the worst church and He uses for His benefit.
Amen.
Look at some of the great ministers, great men of God. God took them. They were imperfect. They had faults. They were human. They made mistakes. But God did awesome things with them. And He'll do the same thing with you. I say, you can quote the Bible back and forth, but I need to see something working in your life. When I started telling Joy, she had raised in church and she knew about God, and I started telling her about the God that I found and the serving. You know, it wasn't the scripture I quoted to her. It was the peace of God that I had. She could see that and she wanted that. Because the world can't give you that peace. When I used to go get high, get drunk, do all that, you know what? Eventually I'd come down. But the peace that God gives you, you never have to lose that peace. The world didn't give it to you, the world can't take it away. Amen? There's a church sign that reads, I was a waste, but God recycled me. Amen. God took Rahab's immoral lifestyle and her whorehouse and He used it as a place of redemption for people. I don't think Rahab could have done what she did if she had not been a prostitute. If God can transform a prostitute and a whorehouse, He can transform you and I, church. And then put us to good use in His kingdom. Think about all the people God used. God took Moses, a murderer, and transformed his rage and hatred. And Moses became Israel's greatest leader. God took Jacob, a thief and a rogue, and transformed his cunning, and he became the father of the nation of Israel. God took David, an adulterer, and transformed his passion. He became the greatest of Israel's kings. God took Simon Peter, a boastful, swearing fisherman, and transformed his pride. He became a preacher for the first church. There are times, church, when our human reasoning deduces that Christ will or will not do this or that. There are times when we hear a voice in the world trying to tell us that Christ will or will not do. Or He will use this, but He won't use that one. There are even instances when the devil and his demons plant suggestions in our minds as to what Christ will do and what He won't do. But Satan's a liar, church. It's good to know the Bible gives us Christ's own declaration about what He will do and what He won't do. We don't have to guess about it. He says if we come to Him for salvation, He will receive us. John 6:37, all that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never drive away. Amen. Jesus doesn't turn anyone away, period. Amen. Religious people do. Amen. Religious churches do. That's what God's prophesied. This is a hospital. You come in here broken and messed up and hurting, and we love you, we preach the truth to you, and God begins to do a work in your life and put you back together so that He can use you and send you out to do things for the kingdom of God. Listen to me. There's times you experience rejection from people and from organization, and rejection is very hurtful. But no one will ever experience the pain of rejection from Jesus in this time of this place. Our human reasoning conjures up the idea that a person can be such a notorious sinner that Christ won't want him or her. Nothing can be further from the truth. It's because we're all sinners and because Christ wants us all. He says, not His will that any man should perish. Okay? He said, I didn't come to call the righteous but sinners. People who are well don't need a doctor, but those who are sick. Listen to this. I think this is an interesting story. When commerce had been reestablished with the converted cannibalistic people of the Fiji Islands, a merchant who was an atheist landed on the islands to do business. He was talking to the Fiji chief and noticed a Bible and some other religious paraphernalia around the chief's house. He chided the chief for listening to the foolishness of the Christian missionaries. The chief replied, "Do you see that large white stone over there? That's the stone where just a few years ago we would use it to smash the heads of our victims to get to their brains. Do you see that large oven over there? That is the oven where we, just a few short years ago, we used to bake the bodies of our victims before we feasted upon them. Had we not listened to what you call the nonsense of these Christian missionaries, I assure you that your head would already be smashed on that rock and your body would be baking in that oven. There is no record of that person's response to that explanation, but the account wonderfully reminds us that Christ meant it when he said that he could not turn anybody away, even cannibals.
That's true.
Amen? Churches stands to reason. If we'll accept Christ, he'll take us just like we are. And the next time you feel like God can't use you, consider the fallen people God used in spite of their inadequacies. Noah was a drunk. Abraham was too old. Isaac was a daydreamer. Jacob was a liar. Leah wasn't all that pretty. Joseph was abused. Moses couldn't talk plain. Gideon was afraid. Samson was a womanizer. Rahab was a prostitute. Jeremiah was bipolar. David had an affair and conspired to murder. Elijah was suicidal. Isaiah preached naked. Jonah ran from God. Ruth was a widow. Job went bankrupt. John the Baptist ate bugs. Peter denied Christ with cursing. The disciples fell asleep while he was praying. Martha worried about everything. Mary Magdalene was demon-possessed. The Samaritan woman was divorced several times. Zacchaeus wasn't very tall. Paul was overly religious. Timothy had an ulcer, and Lazarus was dead. But God used every one of them. Amen?
Amen.
To make himself known to other people. He said, come follow me. Jesus didn't say, be perfect first and then come follow me and I'll make you a fishers of men. No. He said, come follow me. Don't let yourself be deceived, church. The devil tells you you're not qualified. You're qualified. Jesus qualifies you. Amen? Thank you, Lord. Listen to this. I thought this was interesting. I read that the most expensive coffee bean in the world is called a Coffee Luwak bean, which sells for nearly $300 a pound. The Luwak is a rare kind of cat native to Java and Sumatra. The Luwak, this cat, has a very picky appetite. He eats only the choicest, most perfectly matured coffee cherries, which he partially does digest. The coffee beans then travel through the animal's intestinal tract and are evacuated. The hard bean is then collected, roasted, brewed, and served as the best coffee in the world. There's only about 5,000 pounds of the coffee luwak beans available to the world per year. The most expensive coffee in the world carries the name Belton coffee. Ironically, the best coffee in the world is the waste product of a cat.
Mercy.
God can take the worst, nastiest parts of you and use it for good. Some of y'all think that I ain't drinking no more coffee. He took the worst part of Rahab, her profession as a prostitute, and he somehow used it in his plan. If God can do that, church, just think what he can do with you. You don't have to be super educated. You just have to be super sincere. You be humble yourself before God and you watch what God will do. You know what's peculiar about Rahab the prostitute? If you go to Matthew chapter 1 and you read the lineage of Jesus, you read about Rahab. She was a relative of Jesus Christ. The Son of God came from a family that had a prostitute. Rahab was not only a part of God's plan in Jericho, she was part of God's plan to save the world. Many scholars actually believe that the story of broke Rahab used to lure the spies out of the city foretells of the redemption of sin to the shedding of Jesus' blood. Church, I hope I've got this nailed home to you this morning. God can use anybody. He can use anybody, and He can use them anywhere at any time. And all He wants you to do is just say, here I am, Lord. Use me. And so many times, church, especially because of the way things are in society today, we get so wrapped up and worried about our own problems, our own situation, our own circumstances, and we forget that there are millions of people dying and going to hell every day. And that God needs someone to use to speak to these people. He needs to use someone to be a light to them. He needs to use someone to be His hands, His body. We sing a song sometimes called, We Are the Body. The body needs to get up and do what the head's telling them to do. But I don't talk real good, or I don't know, and I'm bashful, or I'm shy. You'd be surprised what God can do if you just open your mouth and give Him an opportunity. There's people that you come in contact with every day that I may not come in contact with. Some other people may, but you come in contact with them. And God wants to use you. Well, I tried it one time and they slammed the door in my face and they told me to get away from me, leave me alone. Well, if they did that, then just dust your feet and go to somebody else. Don't give up over one rejection. You were rejected in the world, but you kept on going after what you wanted, didn't you? Don't give up. There's somebody out there who wants to hear. There's someone that doesn't know. Somebody needs to see that God is working in your life. That you're not the person you used to be. And that you'll never be that person again. They need to have hope. They need to see something genuine. And I'm saying, He used Rahab. He used a heroin addict. He used an alcoholic. He uses me. He even used a jackass one time. God can use you. There's people inside your circle of life that need to hear what you got to say. Don't be the person when you get to heaven and God asks you what you do for Him. Well, I just held on by the skin of my teeth till I got here. No. He said that He wants us to bear fruit. When was the last time you witnessed to somebody? When was the last time you witnessed to somebody? When was the last time you prayed for somebody? When was the last time you shared your testimony with somebody? When was the last time you got up and shared God's good news? Some of you, God's called to do certain things. He's called you to minister the Word. I enjoyed the Bible study. One was talking about a lady that God used. And people, well, God can't use women. You know what the Bible says in the New Testament? There's neither Greek nor Jew, nor male nor female in the eyes of God. God can use whoever He wants. I'm going to tell you something. If it hadn't been for this lady right here, I wouldn't be standing up here today. God used her to impact my life. God can use anybody. I don't care how messed up your life was. Sometimes the more messed up your life is, the better your testimony is. My mom can't go out and really she can minister to them, but she can't minister to people that are coming out of drugs and alcohol and addictions like I can because I've been there. Now, pride, she had a lot of pride. She can share that with you. Do you hear what I'm saying? But a lot of people, we just say, oh, God can't use me. Yes, God can. He's not going to force you. He didn't force you to get up and come to church this morning. Mom and Daddy might have. God didn't. But you do. God wants to use you. Let Him use you. And quit judging people when God does use them. It's kind of like the guy that was pastor. He sent three guys out to, I'm glad to tell the joke. He sent 3 guys out to sell Bibles. The first guy come back, he sold a whole lot of Bibles, he made so much money. The guy said, Pastor, that's good. Second guy come up, he sold many Bibles, and the pastor said, well, that's really good. Then the third guy came up, he stuttered. And he sold more Bibles than anybody. And the pastor asked him, how did you do that? And he told the pastor, I told them, do you want to buy a Bible, or do you want me to just stand here and read it to you?
Great delivery.
God can use anybody, sir. Don't disqualify yourself. And you may blow it, you may miss it, you may make a mistake. Get up and ask God to forgive you and keep on going. Put it under the blood. And when you put it under the blood, the devil comes and says, oh, you did this? No, it's covered by the blood. Talk to Jesus. Amen? Now I'm going to close on this. I want you to remember, all this was taught to us by a prostitute.
Amen.
That's strange, isn't it? But you know what? That's the type of people God uses. Don't ever disqualify someone and say God can't use you. God can use anybody. They want to use you. Don't try to pass it off to somebody else. When God really wants to do this, he can talk to Pastor Joe, or he can talk to Sister Dale. No, God's talking to you. And that person that you want God to use to minister to may not listen to Sister Dale, may not listen to Sister Margaret, but they know you and they'll listen to you. So let God use you. And if God wants to use you wherever or however, don't try to tell him what to do and how to do it. Just do it. Just be obedient. That's what Rahab did. She was obedient. By faith, she did what she did. And God honored her. Let me throw this in before I close. God says in His Word, whoever blesses you, He will bless. Whoever curses you, He will curse. God's on your side. And people, man, I say, when you start trying to share the good news, tell them what God done in your life, they look at you like, man, you're crazy. I looked at people when they try to share Jesus. I thought, man, I don't know that Jesus does. I was too busy having fun. And then they look at you like you're crazy. But you know what? Plant a seed. Plant that seed and believe God will send somebody else to water it. And the Bible says God will cause it to increase. Amen? Give God praise.